Today is the 3rd day of January in the year 2010. We're looking at the water buckle in the ceiling. At least it's not dripping here this morning. We're thankful for that. Oh, this display is just absolutely gorgeous. We're looking at our baby display. We're set up for a tea today, a tea party. This is the boy window. It's got blue lights in it and some blue things and sports mobile over the crib. But here's our tea room today. Here's our tea table with our pretty teapots and teacups. We'll be serving different flavors of tea, and people will be able to pick their teacup and the kind of tea that they like. Some of this stuff is just Miss Nancy's pretty touches. Here's our cookie table today, but it's empty. Here's a maternity outfit, greeting people as they walk in, because to get babies, you got to go through some of this. Antique China doll, or a China doll collection anyway, an old baby carriage. And this is just the beginning. This is stuff mostly that Nancy and I pulled out, plus a few other board members. So we'll have more stuff once everybody gets here and sees that we have room for it.
Hi, Kenny. Be talking to you soon. We're kind of frozen up here.
When we have time.
Yeah, that'll be day after tomorrow. After Pat leaves me alone a while, I can come visit with you.
I'm shutting this off now.
Do you want them to drink tea while the party is going on? No.
Well, hi, Amy. Thank you for coming.
Do you want that?
Uh-huh. Why don't you?
Okay. Do you want them to drink tea while the party is going on? No.
Uh-huh. Why don't you hang on to it temporarily? We'll need to do paperwork on it. I'm getting ready to speechify. And
You know, for after 19 years married, you see Leonard and I are expecting. Oh, gee. As you all well know, they didn't think they would be able to have any children, and it was a surprise to even some of the doctors that she had it. They thought it was a tumor. But then somebody else said, well, 9 months later, you will have a little child. So we liked this. So we were happy to get this. There's a book with a lot of Angeline's stories or poems in here. Yeah. Okay.
now I'm supposed to be over there where the camera is focusing.
Okay.
This is the tricky part here. We had a button party. If you missed our button party, I am wearing a necklace from that. And I'm speaking of that only because I think Diana Land is going to do a Relay for Life button party toward the end of the month. I tried to get a hold of her today. Don't know if she's got a date set. Do you know, Amy? And so watch for that. There'll be another opportunity. This lady makes beautiful jewelry. It's not incredibly expensive, and it's just fun. And if you've got the grandma's button jar that you can make it so it really means something to you, then that's even more fun. And just she has buttons. She brings buttons when she comes, so you don't have to bring buttons. It's just that grandma's buttons are even more special. So I'd encourage you to support that.
Are you going to do the microphone? Are you okay?
Can you hear me?
Okay. And she has her button on too.
Oh,
Sandy
okay.
called her.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
I had a pendant made out of my glass gun to go on my pearls. So she does a nice job.
Memories, Lori. Do you want to speak about that?
Okay, we're doing that on Thursday the 21st at 2 o'clock here. And it's on nicknames, so that can be quite interesting. I know some of the older classes the whole classes had nicknames. So it'll be interesting to see what we have come show up for somebody's going to be telling on somebody else their nicknames, so maybe people should come to protect their names.
PG-13?
It will be. As far as I know, I haven't.
And that's a good way for us to get stories about people in the community, and that's part of what we're all about, not just the things that belong to somebody in our community, but who are the people and what were they honestly like, and nicknames sometimes reflect what they were honestly like. Lois Gorhurst is here to speak to us today. She's from the Doll Museum in Marysville, and she has way more dolls than most people have and knows more about them than most people do. So she's going to speak to us. If you cannot hear her clearly, then we have a lovely microphone and amplifying system. So she gets to try it first, and then we can say, yes, we can hear you, or no, we can't hear you.
I could make my cough drop out of my mouth. So I wasn't nice to myself over, well, I thought I was being nice, but those peanut clusters and that cheesecake and all those things, and if I eat all that stuff, then I tend to not feel as good. I can kind of lose my voice, so I will try to talk about these dolls today, baby dolls. And baby dolls, first of all, I will have to say are, in my opinion, are relative. They're relative to vast amount of baby dolls. They're relative to the beholder. A little child is going to be happy with this little monkey see, monkey do, mother do baby that rocks. And one that gets to be a little older is going to want something different. I was at Walmart last night, and I was visiting with this little boy, which was very difficult because I couldn't understand him. And what did you get for Christmas? And he was telling me, and he was proud of it, but I told him what it was. And his sister came over, and I said, what did you get for Christmas? Now, she must be first grade. She got a Barbie doll. So that was her baby. I mean, did you get a baby? I said, did you get a baby? I got a Barbie doll. That was her baby. I wouldn't consider that to be a baby, but she did. And it also made me think that I got my last doll was when I was in 3rd grade, so I would have been 8, 9, something like that. And it was a horseman. A horseman started out in 1870s, 80s, something like that. So, you know, it's an old little company. But it was a baby doll, and that was the last one I had. At that time, they were going through a conversion, sort of, because it was partly compo head, cloth body, and then they were trying to go to the vinyl hands. And my doll is in the attic in a trunk deep enough that I probably need to shovel to get to the trunk. See, Mom really knows best, you know, and I got this doll, and you've seen them before, but their hands are like this, with these 2 fingers put together. See, and I like to play the piano, and I thought this little baby is never going to grow up to play the piano. It's not going to be able to do anything with those fingers together. So I said to my mother, I think I'm going to cut those apart. And she says, no, don't do that. You'll ruin your doll. And I thought, I just can't stand it. So I have this doll. It's up there in the attic, and it only has 3 fingers. All the stuffing came out, and then I never did play with it because I felt so bad that I did that to it. But it's kind of relative to the child what works for you. Now this little girl had a Barbie. Now I thought, no wonder girls grow up so young. They start going to Barbies. They go from the little babies. You know, society changes. But I have to tell you a story before I really get into some of these things about my granddaughter, and she was in probably 1st or 2nd grade, and she could read. And I had to go to Topeka to pick up some parts for the dealership one day, and she was with me a lot, and she liked dolls, and of course she knew I did, and I had dolls, and I think I even had the museum maybe at that time. I don't know, I kind of getting old enough I forget. So we went, I said, she wanted to go along, and so I said, call your mother. So Amy said she didn't care, so she went with me, but she went with me all the time anyway. So we got down there and went south of, you probably know Topeka, I haven't been there for a long time, went south of Topeka, under the overpass there on the interstate. And then there's a salvage yard down there on the west side. So I pull into the salvage yard looking for my list and thinking what I'm going to do. And she says, Grandma, 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 Grandma. She got so excited, and I said, what? You know what? She says, oh, there's a big sign, and it says baby dolls. Lights all around it. It said dancing. And she said, can we go there? I don't think so. Why? Well, I don't think that's the kind that we want to go and see. Why? Try to explain that to a 1st or 2nd grader so that her mother will let her go with me. I'm afraid of that. So I kind of
passed the buck and says, why don't we just talk about this when you get home? And went on my way. But see, to her, it's relative. Baby dolls, that's a baby doll. But to other older children, the Barbie was a baby doll. So, in my opinion, this is my opinion, there's antique, I divide them up, there's antique dolls, which are the older dolls. There's the in-between dolls, which are probably after the Depression, because when the Depression hit, everything changed. And then there's the modern dolls. The antique dolls, most often, baby dolls, were most often made of bisque. They did have some cloth dolls, but most often, and they had some wax baby dolls, but most often they were bisque. Now, the bisque ones were very pretty. Composition bodies, usually. Sometimes they had bisque bodies too. Most of the baby dolls had bent limbs. Their arms, they could do this, but they couldn't do this because they didn't have any joints. They were just round. And their legs were the same way because they laid in the cradle. So they were just bent like a newborn baby, almost. Now, my example for that is, because I think it's the one you all can, there are tons of them. There's Baby Betty, Baby Helen, Baby Ruth, Baby Bumps, Baby Grump. There are pages and pages of different babies. I didn't find a Baby Lois. Didn't see one of those. But there are all kinds of them. But the one that you and all of us, I think, can identify is the Bilo. And the Bilo was a newborn. And that was a new idea, too. Grace Putnam came up with this in 1922. She designed it. She got a patent for it. And I believe the first one had a socket head, and you know what that is. If you don't know what that is, I'll tell you anyway. It fits. Has a socket here, and it fits down into the body, so you can turn its head. In 1923, she got, that was, I think, had a copper body. In 1923, she had 2 more patents, and she started to try to do some different things with them. She had a shoulder head. Now, you hear about a shoulder head. That's one that has the head, the neck, and a little piece that fits over the body. Doesn't turn, stationary. And then in 24, she didn't do anything with them. But she was lucky in 23, she found, maybe even in 22, she found a company which she had to do right away, which was Borgfeld. Sounds like a Waterville name, doesn't it? Borgfeld. Yeah. It's a German name, and they were German, of course, and a German toy making company. And Borgfeld was very excited about this Bilo. Just thought it was going to do great, and he was right, it did. Fads are fads, and it really caught on. And they built lots and lots of dolls, Bilo dolls. In fact, it was known as the $1 Million Baby for a reason. It made $1 million for probably both the maker and the designer. By 1925, she had another patent, and she changed the body to soft because it would make it nicer for more like baby-like. But they looked like more. They were supposed to look like newborns. That's an example of the antique. Also, this is an antique, and he has a socket head. He turns, and he's bisque. And I got it from a friend of mine who just recently passed away, and she was so handy. She knitted sweaters. Oh my God. She did all these things. This one here is a K-Star R, Cameron Reinhardt, Simon and Helbig. Not to confuse you, but it does. It is made, the doll is Cameron Reinhardt, made by Cameron Reinhardt. The head came from Simon and Helbig. So both names are on there. So when you read it, you say, which is it? It has both names on. That's why. This one here is a Curlin Squab. A lot of these had no hair. They had molded heads. I like to have hats on them because it helps to protect the head from monkey. Socket head. Bent. See the legs bent, so they lay nice. They sit nice. That was the early ones, and then there was a cloth one, which you don't see too often. This one probably could stand, but it's cloth, and then it's painted And so with a kind of a heavy paint, so that's, makes it hard and it makes it more sturdy. They have a seam sewed across the knee, so you can, bend it a little bit. And another older one here, it would be a cloth one, another cloth one, or some of these, and I'll talk about those in a minute. So those are the antique ones. Now the toddlers, I didn't bring a toddler, but the toddlers that I think that you might identify with would be the Dion Quints, what they were. 5 babies born in a time when they didn't have fertility drugs, and it was very unusual. And they lived, which was even more unusual. And they were raised by Dr. Defoe and Louise DeCurlin, a nurse, in a one-room cabin on Lysol, I think, because they knew they weren't going to live, but they did. Their parents already had 6 children when they were born, so they couldn't afford them in the first place. And so they became wards of the state of Kent. You probably know that story because there's been documentaries on them. But anyway, there are babies like this that are, I have a set that are Aaron-B. Madame Alexander also did a set. Now, we're talking about after, this is the middle time, see? We're talking about after the Depression, when they weren't making the bisque anymore. They're moving on, and so they go to a composition. And that was cheaper too. And cloth is always good.
Does that look like one of the Dion's?
No,
That doll?
this isn't a Dion.
Oh,
It doesn't look like it.
okay.
It's just an example of how they too had bent legs and bent arms, and they sit that way. My babies do. Then a year later, Madame Alexander made toddlers. Now they also kind of had bent legs, but they could stand, and they did stand, and they were supposed to be toddlers. I don't have a set of those. One set's enough. But see, the little girls really enjoyed them. And during the Depression time, like the 30s, which is when that was, 34-ish, 35, you'd have to buy 5 of them. You're talking a few dollars there, and people just didn't really have a lot of the dollars. Then as time went on in the 40s, they went to composition. The composition, and these were composition too. Total composition and hard plastic. And they did that because the composition, if you know, and we've all seen composition dolls, they would make them out of sawdust and glue and not a lot of oil, so they would crack and they would chip off and cause problems. So in order to correct that,